So you've seen some videos of this guy on YouTube having some chunky, adorable goldfish, and he himself does not look too bad either. And you've decided that, you know what, I really want to get a goldfish. But those tanks are expensive, those filters are expensive. It sounds like it's going to cost me a lot of money. Well, fear not, I am going to show you how to make a goldfish setup for under $100. In the first part of this video, I'm going to show you the products you need, where you can get them, and the prices of them. And then in the second part of this video, I'm going to show you how to use all these products together to create the goldfish system. The first item you're going to need is your tank, or in this case, your plastic tote because we're on a budget. Now, typically, a tank is the most expensive part of a goldfish setup, but in this case, it's one of the lesser or least expensive things of the setup. Now, obviously, the biggest downside is you can't really get a good side view of the fish, but you can still get a great top view, and it's perfectly safe and healthy for the goldfish to live in a tub like this. I got this tub from Home Depot for only $16. $16, guys, that's it. The next product you're gonna need are some sponge filters. I personally love to go overboard with the sponge filters because it's better to have an over filter tank than it is to have an under filter tank. I got this pack of 4 sponge filters from Amazon for only $20. The thing I love about sponge filters is it does both mechanical and biological filtration in the same media, and you never need to replace anything, and the cleaning of it is super easy. You just rinse them in some tank water. I love sponge filters. I highly recommend them. The next product you're going to need is an air pump, and you need this air pump to power the sponge filters. This is the only thing that makes those sponge filters work. Now, I like to get this one with 4 outlets from Amazon. One, because, you know, the 4 outlets perfectly fit the pack of 4 sponge filters, and 2, you can adjust the airflow. So if you want to have the water be, you know, extra clean and have a high flow rate of air, you can turn it all the way up. But let's say you want to get a nice view of your goldfish while you're looking at them and admiring them, you turn the airflow down a little bit and the water's a little bit more calm. As I said, I got this air pump from Amazon for $30. The last product you're going to need is some airline tubing. This is going to take the air that's pumped from the air pump and bring it to the sponge filters. Now, I get about 25 feet of this, and that is plenty for 4 different sponge filters. You probably don't need your air pump that far away from your tank. This is the cheapest thing, and it only costs $4 from Amazon. So in total, everything you see here to make this system go round costs $70, which, you know, yeah, $70 is a good chunk of money, but it's a lot less than what most people think if they wanted to keep some fish. You know, some filters alone are more than $70. Now that you've bought all the items for this goldfish setup, I'm now going to go over how to assemble them all to create your goldfish system. The first thing you're going to start with is the airline tubing. You want to cut this thing up into 4 different tubes for the 4 different sponge filters, and you want to make them at least, you know, 4 feet long or so, because you want the tubing to be long enough to reach the sponge filters and then go up out of the tank and all the way to wherever you have your air pump plugged in. The next step is also pretty simple. We're going to be connecting the airline tubing to the sponge filters. The first thing you're going to need to do is remove this little plastic tube from the sponge filter, and you're going to have to feed the airline tubing through this little tube. This is basically just so you can get it through it, so you can access the little port that you're going to connect the airline tubing to. Now you just kind of have to shove it on there. It might be a little, you know, hard to fully get it over because they're about the same diameter. You have to stretch the airline tubing over this port. You're just going to put that plastic tube back in place, and then you'll have a good successful connection to the sponge filter. Once you do this to all 4, you're then going to take your sponge filters with the air lines attached to them and put it in your tub where you're going to have your goldfish. At this point, you can fill up your tub with some clean water, and you know, these filters are not wet, so they're full of air. There's a lot of air trapped inside those sponges, so they're going to float on top of the water. So you're going to have to actually squeeze these things underneath the water to get them to sink to the bottom like they should be. Now, obviously, before adding actual goldfish into the system, you do want to condition the water, but I'm not including that or any beneficial bacteria or cycling equipment in the cost of this because I'm just costing the system itself, not the little products and things you need to upkeep it. At this point, you can take the other ends of the air lines and plug them into the ports at the air pump, and then plug that air pump into your power strip where you probably already have way too many things plugged in. I feel like all fish keepers do that. And then those pumps should be pumping air down to those sponge filters, and they should be working. The very very last yet most important step is to add your aquatic chicken nuggets to the tank. And also I did make sure that these water temperatures were the same before transferring them in here. Now this is everything you need to do to set up the system, but keep in mind I did not show a lot of important things you need to do before you can actually keep goldfish. One of those is tank cycling. I have a whole video dedicated to tank cycling, and a lot of you might be thinking, but Luke, what about lights? What about decor? What about plants? What about a substrate? Those are all optional. Like, you don't need to have lights on top of your tank if your tank is in a well-lit room, let's say in a greenhouse. And as for substrates, you could have a substrate or you could not have a substrate. Both are perfectly fine. If you have a substrate in there, it might make the bacteria cycle a little more stable because you're going to have more surface area for beneficial bacteria to live on. But then again, some substrates could be choking hazards, and it might be a little harder to keep the tank nice and clean with the poop getting trapped in between the substrates. There are pros and cons. There are also pros and cons to having something like decor. Yes, it might give your goldfish a little more stimulation, but a lot of decor can be hazardous for fancy goldfish. Fancy goldfish are fat, they're slow, they get stuck in things, they get hurt on things a lot, so you want to be careful when it comes to decor. Some are alright, some I would honestly avoid. In my opinion, the best kind of stimulation for a goldfish is a friend. So that's why I recommend getting 2 goldfish in this system. Thank you guys so much for watching. That is all for today's video. I'm going to try to have these products linked through YouTube on the YouTube video itself, and then also in the description of this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Luke's Goldies out.